2025, and it's 9 a.m. We're here to discuss the exemption application pursuant to Idaho Code 63602NN for Silver Valley Metals Corporations. We have with us, joining with Zoom, Taylor from Silver Valley Metals Corp.
Taylor from E&Y, but for supporting Silver Valley Metals Corp.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. Do we want to turn it over to our prosecutor's office?
Okay. Well, we have before the board, I believe that there was a resolution adopted by the city of Kellogg in support of the requested tax exemption.
Okay.
So with that in place, there's a proposed resolution before the board. As I indicated last time, there are a few moving parts there in terms of the number of years, the percentage granted, whether we're granting it for all of the requested parcels, which is spelled out on Appendix A. The average salary expected, what the company has proposed, is the $87,000. The required number of jobs, which is, as proposed by the company, 120, and the deadline for substantially completing the investment and having those jobs, in place, and after the deadline they proposed for that would be December 31st, 2027.
Okay.
Obviously, all of those things would have to be reevaluated if the number of years that it was granted for were shortened. So I think that the board should discuss whether we're going to go with the default request on all of those items, if there's any amendments, and once we have a proposed resolution, then we could vote on that.
Okay. Now, just for clarification, you guys were going to put in $100 million for the plant, right? The
$100 million is the sort of number that's the kind of cumulative investment to date, and most of that has gone on the plants and the filter plants, and then there's some more investment to come just to get everything fully ready.
Okay, and wasn't it 50 more? Is that?
It's up that order, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we kind of have that in.
The way it's written is that there's a proposal to invest $100 million in new plant investment, as detailed in their application. So that's the way it's written.
Okay.
If they're saying that there's substantially less investment to come, then we may want to clarify that point.
Okay. So you're stating that there's already basically $100 million that's been invested.
Yes, and I think there's a little bit behind the numbers here in terms of what counts and what doesn't count. We don't count labour and construction, we really count the kind of materials and so on. So I may be creating some uncertainty, which I'm not seeking to do. I might see if, well, I won't put Taylor on the spot, but certainly we've spent up the order of 100 million already, although I think the issue may be that not all of that counts towards what's counted as the value of the infrastructure on the ground.
Yes.
And to get to completion, there's going to be another sort of 40 to 50 million before we're commissioning and operating as a mine. And I'm happy to go away and clarify any of those numbers if that's helpful, if there's any uncertainty there. But that's how I would characterize it.
Well, I don't want to speak on behalf of the board. Certainly, it's the board that would decide what an adequate investment is for this exemption to be granted, but regardless whether we're talking about 50 million or 100 million, it's a substantial investment.
Exactly. Now.
Chime in.
Okay.
Sorry, one moment. To chime in on that, so it's 100 million that's been invested to date, but the spend related to the service get cut. So the ask is really, they've already spent 100 million, they're going to spend 50 million more, most likely. And with that, none of that is placed in service yet. So it would be related to everything in that 100 million, the exemption.
Okay. Would you? So you're not sure if there's going to be 50 more million invested? Is that what you're saying? Would that be a hard number?
That's a question for Tom, but the 50 million is a projection, correct, talk?
Yes, I mean, we know what we've still got to do. We have a process plant that, as you past retail may have seen, that's substantially complete, about 80% complete. We've still got a filter plant to construct and a few other things. So we do know from our latest forecast that 50 million is the order of magnitude of what we need to spend to get everything operational. We have confidence in that number. We update our numbers, all the time. But that's certainly the order of magnitude that we'll still be spending before we get into an operation.
Okay. And you don't know if you're going
So
to...
100 million has already been spent, so it's not going to be 50 or 100 million. It's going to be at least 100 million plus whatever they're going to spend in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Taylor.
And I think what this says that they're going to invest 100 million. Is that what we kind of thought when we first started?
Well, that's kind of just the way it was raised. I think that their application was contemplating, since 2020, the end of 2023, so the beginning of 2024. I think they were contemplating that as the project period.
Okay.
Because we're now in 2025, we're using 24 as the base year for the exemption. But I think that the project period kind of reaches back.
Okay.
Just the way that it's written. If we wanted, we could clarify at 150 million in total investment over the entire period, or you could just bump it down to 50 so that you're clear going forward. The expectation is about 50 million. Or we can just kind of leave it as written with that understanding. So it's really up to the board.
Yeah, sorry, and for me, it's a little bit of a moot point. I mean, we've cumulatively to get to production, it would be 150 million. I think what we're all agreed on is that we've invested of the order of 100 million to date, and we know that there's an order of the order of 50 million still to go before we'll get into operation.
Okay.
And so, I think possibly at the time we were articulating the case and filling it out, we just thought we'll just commit to what we know we're going to spend before we commit funds that we haven't yet raised. And so for me, I mean, it's a little bit of a moot point in the sense that if we get into production, we've invested at least $150 million in it. And but if there is any confusion now, I apologise for that. That's on us, and we can clarify that, and we'll kind of follow up separately as required.
So what's written isn't going to hurt anything.
I mean, there's a little bit of you could read in an ambiguity if you want to, but it's not particularly concerning to me.
Okay, that's kind of what I was.
County standpoint.
Okay, all right. That's kind of where I was kind of going. So, okay.
I've got a question for our legal counsel. So, how does this agreement work if the company were to sell mid-agreement to a new owner? Are we covered?
Well, I think that it would basically be like an assignment of contract. So the new company would kind of take the place and have the same obligations and be subject to the same cancellation and clawback.
Okay. And I said, just for my own understanding, City of Kellogg outlined resolution item 7, successors and assigns. Would you explain successors and assigns to me one more time? It's number 7 in the agreement that you drafted for us.
Well, what that means is that you can't assign without consent. So, to my point early is if another company took over, we would have to consent to them continuing under this contract, because you could basically say, okay, the existing company has breached and we're not going to extend it to the new one, or you can agree to extend it to the new company.
Okay. Yeah. Would we be able to, let's say we didn't extend it to the new company, would we be able to get the taxes back from the previous
I think it would depend on whether, somewhat factually dependent, it would depend on some level whether they'd done up to that point what they said they were
Yes.
going to do. I think that at that point you could argue that going forward they would be in breach, but they may not factually have been in breach prior.
At that point.
Right.
Well, Mr. Chairman, our attorney has recommended that we discuss some of these numbers like length of loan, percent of loan, etc.
Mhm.
I would like to start the discussion with recommending that we do 100%. And I think the maximum term was 5 years. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Just for discussion purposes, I'd like to recommend that.
Okay.
And I'd like to get some feedback from the assessor's office if I could.
You guys are willing to do whatever you want, and I'm fine with that. But what we would need to know is what we're accepting. And because nothing, as of this date, we don't have a good record of the improvements that we're accepting. You know, we have the description of the processing plant, the filtration plant, and then eventually the paste backfill plant, the paste plant distribution system. But what we need to know is what that is. So then we have to get a value on it in the event there is a clawback.
Mhm.
And then
Also just
for that working record going forward.
Yeah.
So
Just
this is just general. We
Okay.
need
Now-
a more detailed list and where it's located. But that's something we can work on.
okay.
And it's not something that has to be done for your resolution. It's just something we'll have to keep track of as it comes online and what we're exempting. So that's our biggest concern.
Okay.
And there are provisions in here for those disclosures to be made and for the assessor to have the ability to go in and inspect
Okay.
during the period of the exemption.
And for what it's worth, would be willing to support and give any tools and help with any assessments as required, of course.
Thank you.
All right. We have before us, but I would agree to 100%. Same way with the 5-year term as put in there. They're going to try to get everything finished in 3 years. So I would,
I would agree too.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion that we, in paragraph 1 on this item 1 under results, that we make this for a term of 5 years with 100% of the increase in base value. That would be my motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Do we need to do anything further
Percentage.
for the percentage? You said 100%.
One,
right?
I said 100%.
Yeah.
I would motion that we make it 100%.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's it.
Well, down
Is it
below,
down below?
in A, on the copy I'm looking at, that was still a blank. Have we got that filled out under A?
I think that the later,
I don't have the
I think the one that I
Yeah.
circulated at the last meeting when you were gone, Commissioner Dose, has the other items tentatively filled in at the $87,000
Yep.
salary, 120 jobs, and the deadline to bring all that online of December 31st of 2026.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
So you have a proposed resolution before you that would be complete if there's no further amendments.
Okay.
And I can provide you with a clean copy to execute.
Okay.
And I just saw one thing on that Shoshone.
Shoshone?
I don't know.
Small typo.
Sure.
Like to hear from the city of Kellogg. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to add?
just briefly, we obviously look at this from a long-term perspective and recognize that the company has invested a huge amount of money. And if we're delaying the tax benefits to the city, it's going to be good for us in the long run because they're going to create a lot of jobs and make a huge commitment to our community and be a good steward of their operation. And we just look at this as a win-win for everyone.
We would agree.
Yes.
It's a great.
I have had a couple of negative feedbacks, mostly based on misinformation. Some people felt, and since we're doing this for the public record, I just wanted to clarify, a couple of folks were concerned that we were waiving all taxes. We're not. We're waiving the proposed taxes in the future on improvements. We're not waiving all taxes, and the company has given us substantial guarantees that I think make this a good partnership.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Yes.
One of the things is on that part, people basically we're going to receive the same taxes that we received last year, so it's not going to affect any taxing district's current budget. It's just for future improvements that are going to be assessed and taxed, and we won't get those until the end. So I think it is a win-win. They're putting in up to $150 million of improvements, which will, make our tax base grow quite a bit. And, and in return, they want us to waive, or not waive, but we basically waive the improved taxes. But if they don't, if perform, then we can claw that back. So there is clawback. So it's, we're in a good situation.
Yes. I would agree with that.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yep.
I would move that we approve the resolution. We don't have a number on this one. Do we know the number?
Number
On my draft.
2025-22.
2025-22.
I'll second.
As edited.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
No, that would include improvements for 25, and then they go on the tax roll to 2030, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And I have one more question.
Yes.
The average wage was
87,000.
Can I get an application?
All right. Anything, Chris?
Say thank you on behalf of Bogdan, if I may. Someone who's not from the Silver Valley, I think the level of support we get from Kellogg City, from the county, is superb. And we're excited about restarting in mind because we've been there decades of life there, and that this is going to help us through that critical period where we get on our own feet, and then we'll pay decades of tax thereafter. And so I just want to thank you for your decisions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.